Welcome to our viewers. Thank you for joining us on our webinar today, New Revenue Ready Cloud Service Opportunities with Insight. Joining us today is Rich, a VMware Business Development Manager, BCPP Cloud at Insight, and Grant Jacobson, who manages the VMware Alliance at Cloudian. Welcome, Rich and Grant. And with that, I will hand it over to Grant.
Thanks, Jennifer. Welcome, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us with this exciting topic. As Jennifer said, we'll be talking about these new cloud service opportunities that you have. We'll talk about how those can be enabled leveraging the S3 Object Storage from Cloudian and integrated with the VMware Cloud Director. We'll also spotlight one of those services. This is a ransomware protection-as-a-service as we go through this. So let's go ahead and get started. For those of you who may not know Cloudian, we are a San Francisco Bay Area-based company specializing in S3 compatible object storage. We're a software company, and we're probably the most widely deployed industry-leading independent object storage provider. We have many service provider customers, as well as traditional enterprise customers who are using object storage in their environment today. We are probably the highest level of compatibility with the S3 protocol. Actually, that's probably one of the reasons we were selected by VMware to integrate the object storage into VMware Cloud Director. Another reason is our very rich set of service provider features that's actually built natively into the object storage software, which we call HyperStore. Those features include things like multi-tenancy, which is including QoS and billing for each tenant. The last thing on the slide here is a reference to Gartner Peer Insights. So we're the highest rated object storage provider in that rating, and these are ratings by vendor customers. So you can take our word for it, or you can read the Gartner Peer Insights, which are very favorable around the offering. So what's all the excitement about? Well, it's the integration of Cloudian HyperStore Object Storage within the VMware Cloud Director. As you know, Cloud Director is the foundation for the VMware Cloud provider business. There's many different services that are enabled through VMware Cloud Director. And now with this integration, you are able to unlock and enable a new set of storage-based services for your own business. So this is pretty exciting. You're able to leverage your current environment with this integration, and we'll talk more about that. So let's back up a second and say, what is object storage? If you're not familiar with that, of course, you have the, let's call it traditional block storage and file storage, with vSAN probably a very good example of block storage. And that's for data that is structured data, like a database or a transactional application workload data, with some smaller scalability to 1 or 2 petabytes. File storage is really for like your Windows file server, that's unstructured data, things like documents, engineering files, that's going to have a higher scalability. But for the rest of the data, and for most of it, in fact, it's object storage now. Object storage, and the probably most well-known version is the Amazon S3, which is their S3 Storage as a Service by Amazon. We are compatible with that standard, and that's what we're talking about today. This is very commonly used for any kind of large files, capacity data, cloud native apps, and really a limitless scalability from the point of view of the object storage architecture. So you're probably using object storage today. If you're a Facebook user or a Netflix user, all of these logos here are all using object storage for their business. It's really the capacity solution around all this unstructured data. A good way to think about that is to highlight the sort of data universe. 80% of the world's data is unstructured data and is a perfect fit for object storage. You'll see on the left here with that vSAN reference, and I can also mention other primary storage like Pure Storage or NetApp. These are good examples of storage, in this case block and file, which may require high performance for their application workloads. Object storage can still be performant, but it is not necessarily needing high performance. The point in the middle of the slide here shows you that 80% of that data is going to be capacity data for object storage. It's also the fastest growing type of data in the world, with about 175 petabytes currently, according to IDC. And this object storage is ideal for things like data protection. So if you're backing up data, if you're archiving data, that's perfect. Storage services such as the Storage as a Service, and we'll talk more about that, is another great example. And you'll see the list here on the right with the other areas that is currently being used for object storage. So let's talk a minute about the market opportunity for these new cloud services and your business. Continuing on looking at these different use cases, I mentioned the data protection. That's really the sweet spot because everyone's data needs to be protected at some level, whether it's a 30 or 60-day backup, or it's a longer-term archive and retention, perhaps due to compliance requirements or other kinds of regulated data requirements. Disaster recovery is another variation on that theme, but data protection in general is increasingly important. I mentioned at the outset we'll be talking about ransomware protection, which is a new and increasingly important use case around data protection, given the increasing level of ransomware and malware attacks every day in the world. Going through the rest of this list here, machine data, big data is another great use case here for object storage. So if you have a Splunk environment, a Hadoop environment, or you're interested in machine learning, artificial intelligence, and need a very large data lake, that's a perfect use case here. We talked about storage as a service. That's really an offering that is competitive with the Amazon S3 service, and that's available with this platform, with this solution, as we're talking about this morning. Compliance, another great use case, and media and entertainment, security, of course, just going through the list here. Security could be things like video surveillance. So we have many customers today who are actually using this to actually store and archive their videos, whether it's body camera video or surveillance on buildings. That's a great use case as well. On the top right, reference to bio research data. That's everything from the research labs in higher education to sequence genomes, to other kinds of scientific data also being used with object storage. So here's 3 ways to think about that. Limitlessly scalable. On the left here, this is really the idea about object storage architecture, which is very easy to manage. Here you can start small with Cloudian. That's 3 nodes and 200 terabytes of capacity, and just scale up as you need it. So you don't have to buy 2 years in advance as you might with traditional storage. Here you can just add as you need it. And in this case, you can add capacity non-disruptively and scale to an exabyte if that's needed. And from a management point of view, it's very simple. This is a single namespace across all that capacity, managed as one device, whether it's a single location or multiple locations, and it just works that simply. In the center here, we want to refer to the ecosystem of S3 applications. So S3 is that protocol, and all of these applications we're showing here work seamlessly with the Cloudian HyperStore platform. There's some backup companies here in addition to others, but there's probably thousands of S3 applications now available that can be considered as you think about these storage service opportunities. On the right, we're just highlighting the economics around this with less than 3 cents, in fact, around a penny a gig per month, roughly, for the object storage. And that's much less, of course, than public cloud storage, and even less than traditional enterprise storage at over 3 cents per gig per month. So the most cost-effective enterprise storage here is this, and that is great because that means that you can create and offer services that are highly profitable. So let's take a look at the market opportunity here. According to IDC here on the right, we're showing the graph, their graph, in fact, that this market is huge. Last year, 2019, around $20 billion worldwide, with about half of that in the Americas. And that is interesting by itself, but even better, with a 32% annual growth rate, that market for you is tripling to 60 billion in just a few years. By 2023, 60 billion. And that is just really the reflection of the demand out there for these storage-based services. There is now, with the integration with with the VMware Cloud Director, this makes it very easy for you to simply take advantage of this with your existing environment and take advantage of that demand out there. So whether it's just the S3 storage as a service, or it's the backup as a service, or other types of services, that's really what is happening. And this is very, very easy to buy. This is available through Insight and VMware directly. And important, this is really consumption-based. In other words, you only pay for what you use. So if you're starting with this, you don't have to overpay. You just start small and go from there. So let's take a look at this a little deeper. What we're showing on the right side is the VMware Cloud Director environment here. This is already available, and you may be using that, say, with vSAN. This works really kind of the same way in terms of management and deployment. This is kind of like vSAN for object storage in this case. So we're adding the object storage flavor to the environment. As I mentioned, VMware selected Cloudian as its first object storage offering. A lot of review and vetting for that. And of course, we're now leveraging that together in the marketplace. And so this is the, within your environment, this is the S3 compatible storage endpoint for those S3 applications. This works, as I said, with the VMware Cloud Director. There's integrated management. There is available it's called the Object Storage Engine. It's a BCD plugin from VMware that will make seamless the integration of the Cloudian HyperStore within the Cloud Director architecture. So that is very simple. Of course, this also works without BCD. So if you're not using that, this still works. We have the Cloudian user interface, the management console for provisioning and management that's still available, and even available if you're using BCD. So as I say, this is limitlessly scalable, very important, and you can do that up to, say, an exabyte. Again, just for your unstructured data. A very good benefit is this is multi-site and multi-tenant. So the multi-site could be your own sites as well as the tenant sites as needed. And all of this is now available to enable new revenue streams based on these services. This will support all apps that use the S3 protocol. And as I say, this is really a pay as you grow. There's a metering here, and it's reported, say, on a monthly basis on what is used. So let's look at that at a slightly deeper level. This is the VMware Cloud Director view, where you see now object storage here integrated in the environment. All the common management tasks are accessible with the virtual VMware Cloud Director. The advanced features of Cloudian HyperStore are available as well. There's a one-click within the Cloud Director that will get you over to the Cloudian console to get access to those advanced features. Otherwise, it's a very familiar workflow for provisioning, and again, very similar to what you may be doing with vSAN in terms of management. Here's another view of the Cloud Director integration here. This is, again, available today. So if you have Cloud Director, you can try this, where you can create the users and the groups. You can create buckets, provision storage, and you can even do monitoring. I have a link here on the bottom left, which is cloudian.com/VMware docs. There's a lot of technical documentation available for you that goes into this in greater detail. And here are a few of those documents. There's a data sheet from VMware. It's a one-page, 2 sides here on the left. In the center is a very good document from Thomas Fajita at VMware describing the architecture, the reference design around VCD and the object storage engine integration. And on the right, I'm showing the installation guide for that. And we have many more besides these 3, but you can get those at the link on the bottom. So let's talk about deployment. Very easy. You can actually do that with your existing hardware, where Cloudian HyperStore can deploy on bare metal or in a VM. And you can try that out and get started that way. If you want, we also will make that available with the Cloudian hardware platform. We have appliances that have capacities ranging from, on the low end, 96 terabytes each to 1.5 petabytes in a 4U device. So the 96 in a 1U, 1.5 in 4U, depending on your capacity requirements. In both cases, existing hardware or Cloudian appliances, this is all managed and deployed the same way. So that's with BCD. If I show you a similar picture, this is the same story running without VCD, without the Cloud Director. You can deploy software on your existing hardware, run as a VM or bare metal, managed with the Cloudian user interface in this case, and have access to full features and create the same services. So whether you have Cloud Director or not, this will work the same way. Here's a quick view of those appliances that I mentioned. I won't read all this slide, but there's a lot of detail here. But you have on the low end or the small size, the 1500 with drive sizes from 8 to 14 terabytes. With different network options. In the middle, I'm showing you a 4U platform that can have 960 terabytes, again, with 8 to 14 terabyte drive sizes, different network options for that. And then on the right, the extreme version, this is through our partnership with Seagate, the ultra dense 4U platform. This scales to 1.5 petabytes with 16 terabyte drive sizes. So a quick view of that. And so the last sort of technical slide here is really on the multi-site management. This is a single point management and billing across even multiple sites. So if you have multiple sites in your environment, this all looks like one. You have a unified view of that data. You can manage in a unified way. There's various features at a storage level to help you with that management and also protecting the storage in terms of the erasure coding capability or replication or both. And I'll come back to that in a little bit here. So that's a quick view of Cloudian HyperStore with and without VMware Cloud Director. So let's get into the service opportunities here for you with this platform. And here is a quick list of these revenue-ready services. All of these can be made available and enabled with the platform. Starting with storage as a service, this is really the S3 storage as a service, capacity for archive, for a dev test, for the other services here. So if your customers today are going to the hyperscalers, to the public cloud to get that, now they can get that from you at fairly nice margins. And that's a nice revenue stream that can be leveraged into the future. Backup as a service, very good use case as we were talking with respect to data protection. This is really the S3 storage as a service in combination with one of the backup companies such as a Veeam or a Rubrik or Commvault or other S3 based backup to enable that service. Archive as a service, again, with those same backup companies. In this case, we're storing the service, storing the software hosted data much longer than, say, a backup would be stored. This could be 7 years or even 20 years if it's healthcare data. If it's financial data, there's a different retention period, but that's a great service as well across various different market segments. Compliance in a similar way is a variation on that archive as a service. In this case, it's about ensuring compliance, meeting privacy, and other regulated requirements. Disaster recovery, again, this is really a way to keep an offsite data copy in the event of a disaster and you need to recover that data, that's another great service. We talked about big data as a service, and then of course I'll come back in a minute to talk about the ransomware protection as a service. So on the right side, just showing you that all of these services can potentially be of interest in these different market segments, and also with combination of the other S3 applications. So let's take a quick look. We'll just walk through each of these. It's actually as simple as it looks. There's your Cloud Director environment already there. Now just add Cloudian software either on your existing servers, existing hardware, or on the Cloudian hardware. Then you have it. For any of those capacity intensive workloads with capacity data, unstructured data, it's a ready to go service offering, again, working with Cloud Director or without. Backup as a service looks familiar. It's the previous picture, but now we've added the backup companies, again, Veeam, Rubrik, Veritas, other S3 backup fits right in. These work seamlessly with Cloudian HyperStore via the S3, and so that's a great service, whether it's a simple backup or it's archived for compliance or other reasons. You now have that available. Moving on here, another variation on that picture. The difference now with disaster recovery as a service is we're using multiple sites. So this could be other sites in your environment. It could be the tenant site that is the recovery site. It could even be public cloud here. So that's another option, all part of that single namespace, all part of that unified management and visibility, so that in the event a site goes down, we have a copy of data available for recovery. And again, the base foundation here is the S3 compatible service that is integrated with Cloud Director. And the next one here, big data as a service. The example we're showing here in this slide is the Splunk Data Hub, where you're actually storing the Splunk logs on Cloudian. You might also have pure storage in this environment, potentially. So you're not limited to this picture, but this really is just representing ways to leverage the solution here in with these different unstructured data application workloads. So let's talk about the ransomware protection as a service. This has actually been in the news really every day. If you ever see something like this, or your customers see something like this, they have been attacked, and this is really not a pleasant experience, but it's really increasing multiple times every minute. There are organizations of all sizes being attacked here. It is the fastest growing malware threat, targeting all types of users, public sector, small enterprise, large enterprise, and it is really therefore an opportunity for you to offer a service that actually protects against that. So let's just take a few examples of some recent hacks, cyber attacks here. City of Atlanta, $2.6 million to recover from a ransomware attack. Colorado Department of Transport attacked, 1.5 million. So every day that organizations do not have an adequate protection against these ransomware attacks is a real exposure to financial loss, but also business interruption and other issues related to that. I think this is from January. Travelex, $6 million ransom. Their business was shut down for multiple weeks before they were able to get back up. In some cases, because these hackers are not moral, they might get the ransomware and not give you or your customers the data back. So it's really an issue we're highlighting because we have a solution today that ensures against this issue. The World Economic Forum classifies ransomware risk as a top 5 risk in the world economy. As I mentioned, many thousands of attacks per day, one every 14 or 16 seconds is, I think, the stat that I read. It's increasing. The attackers are getting more sophisticated. And, here's the story. Today, many organizations are set up, or they believe they're set up, to protect against the cyber attacks. They train their staff, they have firewalls, and they've been getting attacked for a while now, so it really isn't new. The new thing more lately is that a lot of the attacks have been on the primary data, but the hackers are not getting paid because organizations are recovering from their backup. And now the attacks are going after the backup storage. So they're reaching that, they're encrypting the backup data, and they're preventing recovery. And that is really the last line of defense for these organizations who've been attacked. If they have no backup to recover from, they literally can be out of business. So what do you do? And what this solution addresses is exactly this, is to actually implement an immutable, therefore unchangeable file system with an underlying worm storage that's write once, read many, to make that system watertight. This is a report from Forrester. This is available to you on our website. So they say, and what this solution does is to back up to a warm storage target and make that watertight. How do we do that? And how does this solution work? Well, with one of our partners, Veeam, this is also a VMware partner, you have in their version 10 a feature called Object Lock, which is S3 Object Lock on the Veeam side doing the backup. There's also Object Lock on the Cloudian side. And so on the top left here, we're backing up data with Veeam into Cloudian, enabling that Object Lock. Here on the top right, that locks the data, makes it immutable, and therefore unchangeable, locks out access, and it's all good and locked up. In the case of a ransomware attack, they are unable to penetrate, they cannot get to it, therefore they cannot change the data or delete it, and the customers are safe, the data is safe, and if they did need a clean copy for restore, that's available from storage here. So the nice thing about this, it's provided as a regular part of the backup workflow. There's no extra steps or manual steps here. And that's, again, available today with this solution. The S3 Object Lock is the kind of key here. It blocks the object version deletion. It makes it worm ready for any of the S3 objects in storage. You get object or bucket level control in terms of that retention period. And it's completely controlled and policy-based and works as really the gold standard now on ensuring protection. I'll also mention we're running a promotional offer here for an object lock license, which is typically made available separate from the software. But for any purchase of the Cloudian HyperStore software through VMware and Insight, you can get this object lock license with a $15,000 value through July 31st this year. And that is only needing a minimum commit of 200 terabytes, which is the regular minimum commit, I believe, with the software. So that is, this object lock is delivering the worm functionality, making data unchangeable, immutable for that set period of retention. This also meets US government and European government security certifications. So in addition to the object lock benefit, you're getting a system level hardening of that solution with the other capabilities, including secure shell, access controls, and other features like an integrated firewall. And these are some of the security certifications. This is in another report from Cohasset, again available on the website for you to read more about that. But this again is the kind of the new gold standard on just making sure your data is safe and keeping out the malware. One last picture. This is what it looks like. If this looks like the previous pictures, it's because it's the same. It's the same as the backup as a service. Here with, again, Veeam version 10 and Cloudian 7.2, you're getting this protection at a storage level, and everything else is running as it would normally. By the way, if you're running this service or you're just doing storage as a service, you really don't need separate storage pools for all of that. They can be combined in your storage platform and shared across different tenants with those different QoS and service levels. So it's a very simple picture, but it's very powerful in terms of how it can be leveraged. A couple slides very quickly on the service economics here. Let's just compare the HyperStore Object Storage software with that AWS S3 service. It's actually roughly half the cost, where on the right we're showing you around 2.5 cents per gigabyte per month, and that's the base storage cost plus the extra fees for egress and transfer, either between Amazon regions or even back to premise on-prem, between the cloud and on-prem, roughly 2.5 cents per gig per month. For the similar size, capacity, and the example here is the 1 to 5 petabyte tier, it can be half the cost. What that means is you can be competitive with AWS and the other public cloud hyperscalers with a storage service and still have a margin to make this very profitable. Typically with the cloud providers, there's no egress charges, no transfer charges, and that's a great way to take advantage of the demand for this storage service. So let's look at that with the context of the backup service or archive or ransomware protection, compliance DR, where we have, in addition, the backup software running in the environment. So adding in the extra cost for that, we're still seeing an almost 9 cents per gig per month profit potential, assuming a, say, a 20 cent per gig per month price to that end user. So, so again, very attractive, very cost-effective platform to leverage for this new set of services. So very quickly on the a little more about Cloudian and HyperStore. We talked about having the highest S3 compatibility, very important to get access to that S3 application ecosystem, the multi-tenancy, of course, with QoS and billing. This is like a foundation to the service provider feature set. I mentioned before the erasure coding and replication. This was at a storage level, very fine-grained, granular, bucket level management to ensure that data durability. So that's in addition to the other layers of protection that's actually built in. One unique value here is that with HyperStore, you can actually mix and match the erasure coding protection with the replication protection and even different levels. So your node sizes don't have to be the same size. They can still work in this way, and depending on your requirement or your tenant's requirement, you can have exactly what you need in the same architecture. There is Cloudian support included with the software. Again, this is on the website, but I won't read it. But phone support, there's a support portal. All this is available with this platform. And very important, how do you get started with this? Just select your minimum consumption level. And here on the right is the VMware schedule of points. These are paid for with your VCPP points. Of course, the higher the capacity, the less cost per gigabyte per month. Starting at 200 terabytes and 15 petabytes and higher gets the lowest cost. This is software billing, so reporting on a monthly basis, and there's a way to actually measure what is consumed so it can be properly reported. And again, that billing is in VMware VCPP points. There are installation services available in addition to that if that's needed, although it is fairly simple to deploy. And again, this will run on your existing hardware or our Cloudian hardware platform as well. On the top, again, it's just a mention of the no-cost license for the object lock worm capability that's available through the end of July. Okay, so in summary, and before I turn it over to Rich, I just want to say we've been talking about a new set of high-margin, revenue-ready solutions around these storage services integrated with VMware Cloud Director, available through Insight and VMware. And again, this is proven. We have many, many service providers around the world who've already deployed HyperStore and providing these storage-based services today. And let me, with that, turn it over to Rich.
Hey, Grant, thanks a lot, and nice job as usual. I'm always blown away, obviously, by the technology. I think it speaks for itself, but there's a few slides in there that really stick out, and that one with the pricing comparison with AWS. If you have opportunities out there where you're competing with AWS directly or other companies that are positioning that's really key. You know, the other hyperscalers, you could really go to bat with a lot of those opportunities with that pricing. So appreciate the time, Grant. But just want to take a couple minutes today to talk about Insight and kind of our capabilities. I'm sure you are aware kind of what we do and kind of how we go to market. But you know, it's in this landscape, it's a little bit different, and you got to go to market with a trust advisor. If you go to the next slide, please. So basically, from perspective, we have an VCP program. Obviously, we are the largest lab for VCPP. We manage more contracts than anybody else, more end users. But basically, we have a dedicated VCPP business and operations team, that itself, and a multitude of individuals behind me working with me operationally, looking at usage, looking at trend up and down, looking at contracts to save you money. You know, there's different ways we can help you out, whether it's sales development. I have a career basically selling to service providers. So if there's any kind of a sales enablement we can help you out with, I'm here to help. We also have residency engineers, staff at Insights. We have a multitude of end user computing specialists, obviously storage specialist around VMware. We can talk more Cloudian. We also do monthly technical workshops. Obviously, with this landscape changing, in the world, we used to do a lot of site stuff, and hopefully we'll get back to that soon. But in the meantime, doing of webinars and a lot of on-demand, and just this webinar will be on demand as well. If you go to the next, with VMware, we do a lot of VMware business. Obviously, big number year there. It's going to grow year to year, adding new solutions, new technologies, trends. A lot of people background other than myself just focused on the cloud provider business. A lot of designations. We're a principal partner, so we resell. We are an aggregator. We're also an MSP. We basically do soup to nuts when it comes to VMware. Go to the next slide, please. Yeah, so just again, been doing the VMware game for a long time. It'd be hard pressed to find another partner that has the capability and scope that we have. Obviously, 20 years in the business, lots of consultants and architects. 5,000 processors converted to NSX. That number was taken from at least a year ago. I think we're closer to 15,000 at this point, which obviously everything moving to software-defined networking and just the software-defined data center by itself. That's a big number. A lot of VMware clients, multiple staff log projects. I'm going to talk a little bit about our master services competencies, which are big. We have lots of competencies, but the MSCs are the big one. If you want to slide, I'll explain that. Yeah, so we have 5 MSCs. These are a big deal for our engineers on site to go to VMware and get. They're not easy to get. There's a lot of back-end work. Data center virtualization, desktop and mobility, network virtualization are the 3 that we have right now. The 2 that are on deck, and the only reason we don't have them in-house right now is we're waiting to get on site to do those, but basically we have those in hand, and those are the cloud management automation, and also the VMC on AWS. And if you can go to the next slide. Yeah, our solution areas at Insight have changed over the last couple of years, but we've really kind of gone to market along with some of our larger manufacturing partners that we work with. So obviously we have 4 solution areas: supply chain optimization, connected workforce, cloud and data center transformation, and digital innovation kind of directly with VMware's go-to-market, kind of where they see the 4 trends. Obviously we go to market with VMware directly. We do all these kind of in tandem, but modern data centers, empower the digital workspace, integrate public clouds, and transform networking security. Basically just another way of saying what our solution areas are as well. Next slide, please. Yeah, so I want to talk a little about what we do with service providers. So we have an entire vertical here at Insight dedicated to managed service providers. So these engineers, these account executives, and also channel managers, that's all they talk all day long is managed service providers, ISVs, data centers, calls, anybody who's offering an end user service. And obviously we do VMware VCPP, but our goal is to really differentiate, diversify, and scale with these clients. With the global changing, you really need to kind of step up your game with all the the attrition and different companies acquiring other companies. It's really getting interesting out there. But we're here to help you out doing that. And obviously with engineering, with sales resources, with any kind of tool that we can help you guys go to market with your end users. Next slide, please. So again, just a little more about our service providers, but dedicated segment and management. It's an entire separate vertical. We don't talk to corporate, we don't talk to enterprise or healthcare. We do have verticals to support those, but here inside our vertical with managed service providers. So 5,000 actual, we call them end users, but they're servicing end users. That's closer to probably 50,000 on their side. Hosted licensing and support. We do hosted licensing with all the major manufacturers that offer a consumption model with their software. Service provider specific events, workshops. We do all kinds of stuff, virtually and on site that focus solely on the service provider market. Next slide, please. Yeah, so we are the world's largest aggregator for the VMware VCPP program. We are also number 1 in Microsoft SPLA, Citrix CSP, and Veeam vCSP as well. So we have dedicated resources. We know what we're doing when it comes to hosted licensing, consumption licensing, anything as a service we're here to help you. But if you have questions about any of these other manufacturers, feel free to myself or team. Next slide, please. Yeah, and again, my name is Rich Patchett. I'm the VMware VCPP program here at Insight globally. Feel free to reach out to me with any questions. I work with my counterpart, Fred Smith at Cloudian. Any kind of resources you would need around Cloudian or any, please feel free to reach out to us. We're here to help you go to market.
Great. Thanks so much, Rich. Going to show you one more slide here on where you can get more information. On the left here, that's cloudian.com/VMware. That's our main VMware page with demos and links to technical docs and other information. On the right, we're showing you the VMware Wire. There's a couple of Cloudian courses already there around solutions enablement and other things. There's also the VMware Learning Zone. Also with a lot of information about these new capabilities from the integration of object storage with Cloud Director.
Well, it sounds like that concludes our webinar for today, the new Revenue Ready Cloud Service Opportunities with Insight. And with that, again, I would like to thank Rich and Grant for joining us and to our audience for taking the time today. Thank you.